Hey Diablo fans, it's Inventor here, and this video is a leveling guide for the Incinerate Sorcerer in Season 3. Incinerate just got some big buffs, including a 40% damage boost, so now should be a good time to cover this build in case anyone is interested in leveling with it. Here we'll cover gear, skills and enchantments, Paragon Boards, the Celestial Construct, and how to level. So let's get right into it. Starting off with the gear, you can get most of your items just by running Legion events. Keep in mind that we need a mix of offensive, defensive, and resource modifiers on our equipment. The gameplay loop for this build is to burn monsters with Incinerate while having high defensive stats and skills that help keep us alive while channeling, and enough resource generation to make sure that we don't run out of mana. With that said, the offensive aspects and stats will come from our gloves, amulet, ring, and weapon slots. As for which offensive aspects to use, you're going to want Aspect of Inner Calm in your gloves and Aspect of Conflagration in your amulet. Since you have to stand still in order to channel Incinerate anyway, Aspect of Inner Calm works really well with Incinerate because you can gain up to 40% extra damage just by standing still. Similarly, the Aspect of Conflagration will give you a 20 to 30% boost to Incinerate and other sources of burning damage. So, just from these two aspects alone, you can boost Incinerate's damage by a whopping 70%. And you can get both of these from your Codex of Power by running the Wraithwind Wilds dungeon to unlock Aspect of Inner Calm, and the Light's Watch dungeon to unlock Aspect of Conflagration. In addition to these offensive aspects, you should run Old Stones to get Edgemaster's Aspect onto your ring to get more damage based on how much primary resource you have. When it comes to offensive aspects that you cannot get from the Codex of Power, you should look out for Conceited, Engulfing Flames, and Elements. Conceited aspect is the best option of these three, and gives you bonus damage whenever you have a barrier active, which you can activate anytime using Ice Armor or the Protection passive. Next up, Aspect of Engulfing Flames gives you a pretty nice damage boost, but only after whatever you're burning reaches half-life. Last but not least, Aspect of Elements will give you increased fire damage every 7 seconds. In practice, you're not going to be waiting for this aspect to roll into fire every time before you spam Incinerate, so it's just a nice damage boost whenever it comes up. These aspects would be imprinted into your weapon slot, but since they're tougher to come by than the Codex of Power aspects, you should only do so whenever you're about to run a capstone dungeon. This is because clearing the Curator and Elias are where you'll need this bonus damage the most. Speaking of your weapon slot, you should use a two-handed staff with the highest item power you can find. I recommend using two-handers since they're easier to swap out and they double the effect of whatever aspect you end up imprinting onto them. Now that we've covered offensive aspects, let's talk about which offensive modifiers you want. For your weapon, you should always look for the option with the highest item power possible while leveling. If it also comes with relevant damage modifiers like core skill damage, damage to burning enemies, damage over time, or intelligence, then that's a huge plus. On your gloves, you want ranks of Incinerate, fire damage over time, and intelligence in that order. Your amulet is a bit weird since you can get damage, pyromancy skill damage, and fire damage over time on it, but personally I would prioritize total armor and damage reduction to help you stay alive. Similarly, when it comes to your rings, it would be nice to get max life before grabbing damage modifiers like fire damage or damage over time. Next we can talk about defensive aspects that come from the Codex of Power. In particular, you want Disobedience in your helm and Snow-Veiled in your pants. Disobedience gives more armor, which reduces physical damage that you take. Snow-Veiled prevents your Incinerate from getting interrupted due to crowd control effects whenever you use Ice Armor. You can unlock Disobedience from Halls of the Damned, and Snow-Veiled from Saret's Lair. With your chest armor, you would ideally like Juggernaut's aspect, but it's not a requirement until World Tier 4. Juggernaut's aspect exists in the Codex of Power as an unlockable aspect for Season 3, but it comes way too late. With this in mind, you'll want to keep your eyes peeled for Juggernaut's aspect as a drop, and only imprint it into the chest armors that you use going into the capstone dungeons. Looking at defensive modifiers, you want total armor and life on kill on your helm, total armor and damage reduction on your chest armor and pants, and resistances on your boots. The goal here is to crank up your total armor as high as it can go to help reduce physical damage taken by up to 85%. Since most of the damage you'll take from monsters will be physical damage, armor is a must for keeping you alive. Similarly, you'll need resistances to reduce non-physical damage, and these will come from your boots because those can't roll total armor. I would prioritize fire and shadow resistance over other types, since some of the attacks used by the Capstone Dungeon bosses seem to do damage from these two elements. And of course, damage reduction helps wherever you can manage it. For example, if you find a set of pants without total armor, but it has damage reduction from close, distant, and burning enemies, then it would still be worth considering as an option for the Capstone Dungeons. I find that the Capstone Dungeons become really easy when I have over 3000 armor with 25 to all resistances before starting Cathedral of Light, and 7000 armor with 50 to all resistances before starting Fallen Temple. Moving over to resource generation, you want to pick up a resource aspect known as Prodigy's from Witchwater Dungeon in Hawazar. Prodigy's aspect restores mana every time we activate a skill that has a cooldown. When combined with passives like Fiery Surge and Soulfire, or skill modifiers like Mystical Flame Shield, Enhanced Ice Armor, and Shimmering Frost Nova, this will help ensure that we won't run out of mana while spamming Incinerate. Finally, make sure to socket rubies into your armor for more life, diamonds into your jewelry for more resistances, and amethysts into your weapon for more damage. Skulls can work in place of amethysts for your weapon if you want a bit more sustain. That pretty much covers it for our gear. Now for skills and enchantments, on your skill bar you're going to have Flame Shield, Ice Armor, Frost Nova, Inferno, Teleport, and of course, Incinerate. Your enchantments will be Fireball for more AoE, and Incinerate for a bit of extra damage early on, but you'll sub out Incinerate for Frozen Orb later on so that you can have cold damage once you get the Elementalist Glyph bonus. In terms of how our skill tree will look, we'll be leveling it as follows. To elaborate on some of the passives, Glass Cannon, Inner Flames, Endless Pyre, and Elemental Dominance, along with the key passive Combustion, will boost your damage significantly. Meanwhile, Align the Elements, Protection, Mana Shield, and Potent Warding provide us with extra tankiness. Fiery Surge and Soulfire with Enhanced Ice Armor, Mystical Flame Shield, and Shimmering Frost Nova help solve our mana problems. Your standard playstyle would be using Teleport to get around quickly from place to place, and then to use Incinerate to burn most regular monsters while using Ice Armor and Flame Shield to make sure that you don't get disabled or die. If you come across big packs of monsters or elites, use Inferno to damage them and to group them all up into one spot. Against bosses, you'll have to teleport near them for lightning damage to trigger the bonus from the Elementalist Glyph. In the late game, this will also activate the bonus from the unique ring Talrosh's Iridescent Loop as well. Once you're beside the boss, you use Frost Nova to add to their stagger bar and render them vulnerable. You'll then dash away with your evade to create a bit of distance, and then incinerate them. While channeling Incinerate, you can use Ice Armor to give yourself a barrier that both protects you and boosts your damage through the use of Conceited Aspect and the Tactician Glyph. Flame Shield will be there to give you invulnerability whenever you're in trouble. Moving on to Paragon Boards, when I killed Elias with my Incinerate Sorcerer at level 55, this is what I used. As you can see here, there's not really anything too special. Since monsters in higher world tiers dish out a lot of elemental damage, my main priority was to pick up nodes with resistance to all elements. Next, I picked up some damage along with the first available glyph I found that contributes damage to my Incinerate. In this case, I unlocked Flame Feeder first, so that's what I ran with for the Elias fight. I could have also used Elementalist, Enchanter, Pyromaniac, Tactician, Torch, or Unleash. Any of these would have been fine too. Now, I'm not going to go super in-depth with how your endgame Paragon board should look, nor the reasoning for every allocated Paragon point, since I think this kind of discussion would belong in a separate video covering an endgame Incinerate Sorcerer. But what I can say is that my level 100 Incinerate Sorcerer prioritizes getting as many additive and multiplicative damage modifiers as possible, so it runs the starting board with a Tactician Glyph, Burning Instinct with Destruction, Enchantment Master with Elementalist, Elemental Summoner with Pyromaniac, Frigid Fate with Enchanter, and Searing Heat with Torch. You can find more info on the max roll character sheet that I provided in the description of this video. The Celestial Construct comes in quite handy for this build, and I'll provide 3 setups for it in this video. The first setup is used before World Tier 3, the second setup is used during World Tier 3, and the third setup is what you would aim to get in World Tier 4. Before reaching World Tier 3, you want the Gyrate Governing Stone with the Tuning Stones Resource, Fortify, and Mockery. Also, you want the Reconstruct Governing Stone with the Tuning Stones Initiative, Tactical, and Safeguard. With this setup, the Celestial Construct tanks hits for you by going into melee range to attack with Gyrate, aggroes monsters with Mockery, generates Fortify with Fortify support to boost your survivability, and grants you mana with resource support. Reconstruct heals you whenever you become injured, which is useful when fighting the Curator since that's where healing potions are limited. Tactical support reduces Reconstruct's cooldown while Safeguard grants you damage reduction, and Initiative support will bring your Celestial Construct directly to you if it somehow gets stuck. While you ideally want Gyrate and Reconstruct, if you don't have them, then you can sub them out for whatever stones you do have. Next up is the World Tier 3 setup. If you're able to, here you need to swap out Gyrate for Tempest, Mockery for Breaking, Reconstruct for Flash of Adrenaline, and Initiative for Duration. Tempest has a faster attack speed, which allows you to generate Fortify and mana more quickly. Breaking support gives you an extra source of vulnerable aside from Frost Nova. Flash of Adrenaline boosts your damage, and Duration support extends how long Flash of Adrenaline lasts for. Again, these are supposedly rarer stones, so just switch out what you can if you don't have access to all of them. At some point after you reach World Tier 4, your Celestial Construct should have access to all of the aforementioned stones. The setup for World Tier 4 will be pretty much the same as World Tier 3, but you'll want to replace resource support for Evernight and Safeguard support for Genesis if you can somehow acquire them from Uber Malphus. Now we can talk about leveling. To level with this build, we're going right into World Tier 2 for the extra 20% XP boost. Especially after the 40% damage buff to Incinerate, the monsters in World Tier 2 now feel like a complete joke with the right prep. If you imprint the right aspects onto your gear and keep switching out your weapon for one with higher item power whenever you can, then World Tier 2 will actually feel more like World Tier 1 in terms of difficulty. While leveling, your number one priority is to do Legion events anytime they're up. Legion events give okayish XP, but what they're really good for is gearing up since you get lots of items and O-balls out of them. Secondly, if Legion events aren't available, make sure to do the Whispers that are tied to the Arcane Tremors whenever you can. These are usually super quick, like 5 minutes tops, and give a little bit of everything including great XP, gear, gold, mats, and once you reach level 50, glyphs. To get even more XP quickly, use the Seasoned Blessings and an Elixir if you have them. With these things in mind, here's how I recommend leveling with the Incinerate Sorcerer. From 1 to 10, the very first thing to do is run Whispers from Arcane Tremors. You can farm the Elemental Cores first to summon the Herald of Malphus, and after killing the Herald of Malphus, you can finish off the 100 Constructs Whisper. From level 10 to 15, you will unlock aspects in your Codex of Power. This would include Conflagration, Inner Calm, Edgemasters, Disobedience, Snow-Veiled, and Prodigies. If you already have these, just begin the seasonal quest line and unlock the Celestial Construct. At level 15, you're going to complete the Sorcerer class-specific quest, Legacy of the Magi. Once you're done, select Fireball as your first enchantment slot, and at level 30, use Incinerate as your second enchantment slot. Once you finish this quest, from level 15 to 30, you'll do the seasonal quest line. There are faster ways to level, but you need to finish the story at some point anyway, or else you can't open Nightmare Vaults yourself, which is where you'll spend most of your time leveling in the endgame. Also, if you have the mats, remember to imprint Inner Calm into your gloves and Conflagration into your amulet ASAP. From level 30 to 45, you'll be farming Arcane Tremors. Of all the Arcane Tremors, I recommend the one in Fractured Peaks since it seems to have the highest mob density. To help you with this, I have two cool little tricks I would like to show you that I like to call the herding strategy and radar. For the herding strategy, you don't kill all of the monsters right away. Instead, you want to run around on your horse first and scout out a few packs of monsters, then tap each pack with Incinerate to aggro them on you, and then once you have them all clumped up, you can finish them off with Incinerate. As for radar, if you're full up on Grim Favors but haven't completed the Kill Construct's Whisper, then you can sometimes see the constructs on your minimap, which will help you plan out your route for herding monsters. This lasts indefinitely until you turn in your 10 Grim Favors. Radar can be annoying to set up, but knowing both of these tricks can be handy for farming Arcane Tremors efficiently. At level 45, your goal will be to clear the World Tier 3 Capstone Dungeon, Cathedral of Light. Make sure to imprint aspects onto your items and upgrade them as needed, prioritizing your weapon first. At the Alchemist, you can upgrade your healing potion, but you probably won't need an elixir here. The only thing to be scared of is the Curator, but as long as you pop Flame Shield or Ice Armor whenever he uses his 3-line attack, you should be okay. From level 45 to 50, farm Arcane Tremors. Same as before, but on World Tier 3. Just make sure you keep running Legion events and Arcane Whispers as you did previously to try and get sacred items. Once you reach level 50, you'll be running Whispers to unlock glyphs until you can get one that you'll use in the endgame. This would be one of Destruction, Elementalist, Enchanter, Pyromaniac, Tactician, or Torch. Once you have a worthwhile glyph, from then on until level 60, run Helltides for Tortured Gifts of Protection so you can increase your chances of finding gear upgrades and Juggernaut's aspect. You'll also get XP, Elixirs, and Forgotten Souls in the process. And at level 60, it's time to clear Fallen Temple. Remember to upgrade your gear as needed. If you have them, this is the time to imprint any non-codex aspects onto your items if you have them, like Juggernaut's aspect. If your resistances are low, you may want to consider using an Elixir of Magic Resist or an Elixir of Fire Resist. The Elias fight can be a bit tricky, but try to use your Celestial Construct for cover and counter his attacks by using your defensive skills to absorb them or avoiding them altogether. Once this is done, from level 60 onward, you'll be running Nightmare Vaults with a monster level roughly 15 levels above your character to continue leveling your character in glyphs. Now that you're in World Tier 4, you should keep an eye out for ancestral items to replace your equipment with too. That pretty much covers it for the Incinerate Sorcerer. Before the patch, Incinerate was already easy to level with because it's powerful and surprisingly cost-effective, not to mention that it also has excellent range and pierces through everything in a straight line. The only drawback to Incinerate is that you need to stand still in order to channel it, but otherwise it's a solid ability. With all that said, let me know if you want to see me do a leveling guide for a different build. Also, if you enjoyed the video, a like, comment, or a subscribe is always appreciated. But otherwise, that's all from me. Inventor out.